This program is brought to you by Emory University.
Some writers and lovers of the game point to the old Brooklyn Dodgers as a perennial hard luck team. As one writer puts it, down more than they were up. I put people who say things like that in an imaginary hell, somewhere between the gluttons and the avaricious, where they can receive daily instructions in reality. For the record, from 1900 to 1957, the last year the Dodgers called Ebbets Field in Brooklyn home, that team won 9 pennants and 1 World Series championship. And that includes an amazing run between 1947 and 1957, when they won 6 pennants and 1 series title. What, 6 pennants and 1 championship out of 11 seasons aren't enough for you? Give me a break. Here are the hard facts about a real hard luck baseball team, the Philadelphia Phillies. No team in history, not even famous losers like the Chicago Cubs and, at least until lately, the Boston Red Sox, has lost more games in total than the Philadelphia Phillies. Ever. Even though they gave the Cubs a 7-year head start, the Cubs National League franchise dates from 1876, the Phillies from 1883, the Phillies have still lost more games. Even after a World Series title in 2008, after back-to-back pennants from 2007 through 2009, and after playoff appearances in 2010 and 2011, in the aggregate, the Phillies are still baseball's all-time losers. Apart from the Phillies, only the Atlanta, Milwaukee, Boston, Braves have lost more than 10,000 games. And even with a 7-year head start, the Braves still trail the Phillies in the loss column by several hundred. The pennant the Phillies won in 1950 from those hard-luck Dodgers was the Phillies' first National League title since 1915. And it would be their only National League title until 1980. Only that single time in 65 years would the Phillies finish the season atop the National League. No person with even a vestigial sense of justice could possibly begrudge the Phillies that year, that day, and that game. And so when I read about that fateful day in late September of 1950, a day that Dodger fans like Roger Kahn and Doris Kearns Goodwin and Thomas Oliphant like to mourn as the day the pennant got away, the day when the Dodgers lost the National League title to the Phillies, who was a team at that time that had not won a pennant, much less a World Series, since Woodrow Wilson had sat in the stands. A team that would not see another league title for another 30 years, when, on October 21st, 1980, for the first time ever, they finally won it all. To Kahn and Goodwin, Kearns, and all the others like them, I say, please spare me all that crap about the hard-luck Brooklyn Dodgers. You don't know suffering until, like my father, you've spent a lifetime living and mostly dying with the Phillies. About that day and that game, my father tells a different story. First, you have to understand that the Phillies very nearly blew it all. All through the summer of 1950, the youthful Phillies, they called themselves the Whiz Kids that year, had run away with 7 other teams in the National League. And on September 20th, they held a 7.5-game lead over the second-place Dodgers. Then they choked. They lost 8 of the next 10 games, including the first of the season's final 2-game series with the Dodgers. On September 30th, the Dodgers took Game 1. And when the Phillies took batting practice on October 1st, the last game of the regular 154-game season, they led the Dodgers in the standings only by a single game. The Dodgers were surging. During the time the Phillies were losing those 8 of 10 games, the Dodgers were winning 11 of 14. Another Dodger win would throw the 2 teams into a tie and force a 3-game playoff. Here, then, are the main events from the box score of that final game. Like most games in the days before lower mounds and downsized strike zones, I won't even mention hitters on steroids, it was a low-scoring affair, a taut pitching matchup between the Phillies' Robin Roberts and the Dodgers' Don Newcombe. At that point in the season, each pitcher had won 19 games. The Dodgers came to bat in the bottom of the 9th with the score tied at 1 run apiece. The ensuing events brought together a cluster of future Hall of Famers. The first 2 Dodger batters, Pee Wee Reese and Cal Abrams, reached base safely on a walk and a hit. With runners on first and second base and nobody out, Duke Snider, batting third, singled to center field. For a moment it looked as if the game was over. But Abrams, trying to score from second with what would have been the winning run, was thrown out at the plate by the Phillies center fielder Richie Ashburn. With runners now at first and third, the Phillies pitcher, Roberts, walked Jackie Robinson to load the bases. Then he retired the next two Dodger batters to preserve the tie. In the top of the 10th inning, Dick Sisler hit a 3-run homer to put the Phillies up 4-1, and Roberts held on in the bottom of the inning to seal the win. Dodger fans may have been briefly discouraged, but their team would go on to win 4 pennants and 1 series championship before leaving Brooklyn 4, as it was then called, the Coast. As for the Phillies, their next pennant was another 30 years in the future. Even after they were the last team standing that year, though, I don't think my dad ever really believed it.
The preceding program is copyrighted by Emory University.